of fate.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you'll cement this.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into comic book movies, blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, we're back at it again this week with my co-host, Devin, and we're here to give our insights into the Book of Boba Fett, Season 1. This is, I think, the first Disney Plus or first show that we've kind of done in a while where we didn't cover it week to week because there was so much going on and because of the break that we took going into the new year. But hey, you know, we're always going to be coming back talking about some Star Wars, right? And this one really, it's something. It's definitely something. It's pretty divided in a way. I've seen some people like it more so than others. But before we kind of just get into it, Devin, how the heck are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good, man. You know, it's hump day, middle of the week here. And yeah, I'm just ready for the Super Bowl. Got some really weird. Well, actually, you sent me a one of the weirdest things I've seen in a while about the Uncharted movie director, Ruben Fischler, is apparently in talks with PlayStation to adapt Jak and Daxter for either TV or for film.
Yeah, did you see who volunteered to play Jak?
No, I did not.
One guess.
The kid, please don't tell me it's Tom Holland.
Yes.
Maybe like kid Jak, but not adult Jak. But
well, he's a kid playing adult Nathan Drake, so anything is possible.
Yeah. Well, for Uncharted, they said that it was supposed to be that's supposed to be like a prequel. So it's like a younger Nathan Drake, but it's weird because it's a younger Nathan Drake, but he's also doing the same thing.
He's obviously in his 20s still because he's a bartender.
It's weird because like all the shots like of Nathan Drake coming out of the plane, like that's taken from Uncharted 3, which happens later on. So I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I don't know how I feel about Jak and Daxter TV film. I'm always weird about them trying to expand like a video game medium, which is usually, I feel like video games, especially, you know, single player video games, story driven video games are more immersive than TV and film because of the interaction, because, you know, the empathy through control, all that jazz. But like, this just seems weird. Like, I don't think there's a kid alive today who knows who Jak and Daxter is. Like, we've been clamoring for a Jak and Daxter remake. You know, like it seems that Sony's going through all their Naughty Dog properties, Last of Us, Uncharted, you know, now Jak and Daxter has been resurfaced. And I just want a game. I just want like a new game or like a remake of the original 3. That's literally all I want. Like that's it. But I mean, it is what it is. We'll see what comes of it. And you know, if it comes to fruition, you'll be hearing about it here on the podcast. So, but other than that, you know, my day's been pretty well. You know, I got to work from home today and just ready for the Super Bowl. Go Bengals. For anyone out there, really quick, actually, if you're a big fan of the Bengals, you should be following the Bengal Boys on Twitter. It is at the Bengal Boys. A lot of my friends from town, from Cincinnati, they get together every single week and make a parody video for the Bengals, depending on who they're facing or just in general to lift up the old Cincinnati spirit. So I'll put a link to their Twitter page in the episode notes down below. But Devin, before we begin to talk about this Book of Boba Fett thing, I know I've been clamoring here for a bit, but got to let our listeners know we got a little bit of housekeeping to get into before we get into this episode. So before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on platforms around the internet. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Show us some love and leave us a 5-star rating and review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X, or email us at filmoptics@gmail.com for any movie related questions. So, are you ready to take a little trip to Tatooine?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be right back with our The Book of Boba Fett Season 1 review right after this short break.
I am Boba Fett, left for dead on the sands of Tatooine. Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with our Book of Boba Fett review, Season 1 coverage here on the show. Creator of this show is Jon Favreau, the man himself, and stars Ming-Na Wen, Matt Berry, and of course, Temuera Morrison. And the synopsis of the season is as follows. Bounty hunter Boba Fett and mercenary Fennec Shand navigate the underworld when they return to Tatooine to claim, Jabba the Hutt's old turf. So before we kind of get into this, it's kind of apparent if you've been following the Mandalorian's journey towards the end of season 2 of the Mandalorian, there was a small little snippet, little post-credit scene of the Book of Boba Fett. And that's kind of where all this started taking place. A lot of fans were super, super excited to kind of see how Boba Fett escaped the pit. And this is that story. This is that story for sure. So I'm going to pass it over to Devin so we can give his initial reactions before we get into spoilers, because I know there's a lot of people out there who still haven't seen at least the season finale. And that's kind of what we wanted to do here in the show. You know, since we weren't able to cover it week to week, we figure we give it to you all at once, just give you our thoughts all together to kind of, still technically cover it for you guys, but, in a more in-depth way. So Devin, take it away. What are your initial reactions?
So as far as the finale goes, I think it was fine. Like, definitely a couple issues, but overall I was entertained throughout. It kind of seems like a theme recently where these series have like a really, really amazing penultimate episode and the finale isn't quite as strong. Kind of reminds me of like WandaVision, or I'm sure there's another example, but that's the one that first came to my head.
Well, yeah, Loki's was just as good as the penultimate. That was pretty. I'm trying to think. Well, actually, I think Hawkeye's penultimate episode was better than the finale. A little bit there.
Which one was that?
I can't remember.
I'm looking it up. I have really bad memory specifically when it comes to TV series.
No, depending on what the show is, it's like, man, that was really, really good. I know for Loki's was the penultimate.
Yeah, Hawkeye was. Yeah, Hawkeye had the one with the with Ronan.
Yeah, with Ronan. That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, it seems to be kind of a trend recently where there's like these thrilling reveals. Like for episode 6 of Boba, like that's some of the best Star Wars that we've ever seen. I mean, they brought out characters that people thought they would never see, and seemingly out of nowhere too, that just surprised everybody, and they were done so well, especially how they fixed up a certain character. He was not looking too great in Mando, but he's got a makeover now and he's looking better.
Yeah.
He still sounds like a robot, but
yeah. He still sound. I see what you mean. It's very I'm sorry. Are you done? I didn't want to.
Well, am I going into like the whole series or just the?
Oh yeah, we're going to be doing a whole series. Obviously, I feel like we are going to be more talking about the season finale, but just your experience overall from episode 1 to 7 as well.
Yeah, just looking at the overall episodes, I really enjoyed the first 2. I love seeing how he escaped the Sarlacc pit in episode 1, because obviously that's like the biggest part of his lore. Like how do you escape that? And he just kind of forced his way out of there with his wits, and I thought that was really cool to see. And I also thought it was cool to see another side of the Tusken Raiders, because they've also been just kind of a mystery in the Star Wars universe. Nobody really knew who they were, what they were about. So it's kind of cool to see them combine forces and kind of work with each other and better each other as two mysterious type of characters in the Star Wars universe. And then episode 3 is when things started to get a bit bumpy because of the Power Rangers. It felt like they just did not fit at all in this series.
I can't even name. I don't know who.
The tone of this series, and then you have these weird cyberpunk Power Rangers. It just does not fit at all.
Do you think? And I'll get into my thoughts here in a second. But
I also do love that the entire internet just kind of put together and agreed that they're just Power Rangers. Like everybody just agrees. Like those are Power Rangers. There's no denying it.
It wasn't even like what they were wearing. It was that what they were writing, and I'm like, why?
It wasn't even just a couple people. It was like everybody was just like, yep, those are Power Rangers.
But like the entire Tatooine is like, obviously it's based off of, heavily influenced from Arrakis, from Dune. But like, it's this desert wasteland where everything is like, either a sandy gray, or, more of like a beige type, like brown or yellow. And then you just have these out of any like vehicle or ship on Tatooine, and then you see these bright yellowed like motorbikes that just seem completely out of place.
I mean, they're all just Earthlings with like one cybernetic enhancement. Like one guy has an eye, one the lady has an arm, a robot arm. Like there's just nothing special.
I think they were playing Cyberpunk 2077 too much.
That might be it. I mean, it is great to see Thundercat as making an appearance as the like cybernetic enhancement guy who's like saved Fennec Shand's life.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, then going into episode 4, I think the only saving grace for this one was I'm gonna butcher the name, so I'm gonna call him Santo because that's what Boba started calling him. But Santo is a badass.
I'm just so before I get into my my initial reaction of the season overall, obviously, we're going to be talking more so about the season finale, but I feel like talking about it overall is better, even though the season finale just dropped earlier as of this recording. But so the Book of Boba Fett right now on Rotten Tomatoes, for the critics, average tomato meter is 81. And average audience score is 61. Now, I haven't gone into each episode like individually, but I will say from the very beginning, I think this show was poorly placed right after Hawkeye, because we're towards the end of the year. Hawkeye ended on such a great note, just through just. Regardless of what you thought of Hawkeye, it did its job and got everyone in like the holiday season, the holiday spirit. And we know that Disney is very big on, obviously, the month of May, for Star Wars Day on May 4th. And of course, Star Wars movies used to release in May because of that reason. And then, when Disney bought it, they moved it to December. And it's like, okay, that's fine. You can celebrate Star Wars. You have two big ways to celebrate Star Wars twice a year. And I think that the show itself being the season premiere was on December 29th, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's like, right after Christmas. Like I feel like Disney did not give their audience a little bit more of a breathing time in between Hawkeye and Boba Fett, just because, I know it's Marvel Studios and then Lucasfilm, but it's like, it felt so one after the other, because Hawkeye ended, I think, the week of Thanksgiving, right before Christmas. And then like a few days after Christmas, they're like, oh, the Book of Boba Fett's coming out. I got to be honest, I totally forgot that it was dropping. And then, you would ask if we were, going to be covering here on the show. And I was like, oh man, like I didn't realize it was going to be 7 weeks. And I was like, well, let's, as we're doing now, just covering the episode as a whole. But I think that was the main issue with it, is that, well, that isn't the main issue, but starting off, I think it was just poor placement, because and then going into like episode 1, I didn't mind as much, just because, like it kind of, the flashbacks were fine in the first episode, because it did see, we did see how Boba Fett escaped the Sarlacc pit. Personally, I feel like they could have condensed all that into like maybe 1 to 2 episodes, and then going forward with like more recent politics on Tatooine, which I didn't really find all that interesting. So like, I mean, episode 1, I was like, okay, usually gave it a pass. And then like the flashbacks just kept happening over and over and over. Episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, which was like, I believe like 30 to 35 minutes of the entire episode. But I will say episode 4 was a little bit better than 1, 2, and 3. But then of course, episode 5 came, The Return of the Mandalorian, and that got everyone excited. Then episode 6 was even better. But I wanted to bring up, because I know a lot of people were complaining about, we got 4 episodes of Boba's journey of him, escaping the Sarlacc pit, befriending the Jawas and whatnot. And it was interesting, but for me, it just didn't really do anything. Like, I think I don't really care too much about Boba Fett as a character as much as I did when I was younger, because I mean, I know there's a lot of books and like novels and comic books about him, but it's like for a movie character, I feel like I shouldn't have to look elsewhere to get a deeper meaning into the person. It's there if I want it, but I feel like we should have gotten a little bit more with Boba Fett. And I think that's what fans were hoping for with the show. But I think you actually showed me this tweet by Adam Fraser, the Book of Adam Fraser, a big thread that he was talking about. And for people who kind of forgot, like during Disney's Investors Day, December 10th of 2020, Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, did announce that the next chapter of The Mandalorian would premiere in December 2021, or quote unquote, within the book of Boba Fett. And then he kind of goes on to explain how, it is a book of Boba Fett. Like, yes, like Boba Fett is the main character, but it is more so.
There's chapters for different characters,
right?
Like, and they're all connected to Boba. Like, obviously, I mean, can we get into spoilers? I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, really, really quick, because I know I've been talking up a storm here, but that is your first spoiler warning for Book of Boba Fett. So if you haven't seen the season finale, we're definitely going to be talking about that today as well as the other, the rest of the season. So again, that's your second spoiler warning. So again, if you haven't seen the Book of Boba Fett season finale, turn back now, because we're basically going to be talking about it, gushing over it, and we don't want to ruin that for you guys. Hence the nice little sound effect we got there. So sorry, Devin, continue.
Yeah, obviously, Cad Bane is a big example, because he has a strong connection with Boba Fett in the expanded Star Wars lore, and I don't know if we would have gotten him. We definitely wouldn't have gotten him this soon if it weren't a Boba Fett based series, because they are directly connected. And can we just say how badass he is?
Oh, it's amazing.
Like I'm somebody who has not watched much animated Star Wars, but even I recognize how cool of a character he is. And then when you see him on live, like the live action screen,
yeah,
I don't know how they pulled that off so well.
He looks amazing.
He looks like actually scary. Like those teeth are like he's gonna bite your head off.
Yeah, like I like how it wasn't. And from seeing Cad Bane in the Clone Wars series, like I've always loved him as a character. I think he's really, really great. There's a lot of great characters that they are starting to bring over from Clone Wars into live action. We've seen it with Ahsoka multiple times, seeing with Cad Bane, and I really, and of course, Bo-Katan as well. So it's like we're finally seeing these characters in the animated side that people have loved for years, and then, into live action. I think they're doing a great job with it. I mean, even Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. She looks fan-freaking-tastic. I absolutely I adore it. I love how they're just finally starting to dive into these other characters. Cause I mean, Clone Wars is such a big part of Star Wars. I mean, there are, there's a lot of like filler episodes here and there, but it really does a great job of expanding the greater Star Wars universe. Star Wars it's one giant story. I am interested to see how and when Disney decides to kind of move away from all these legacy characters. As much as I am excited for, the Obi-Wan series, I think it's about 5 or 6 episodes, something of that nature. I really do want Disney to start just moving forward. Like, I think they're doing a great job of The Mandalorian, like moving things forward. And they tried to with with The Last Jedi, but then
they really had a chance.
They had the biggest chance in the world. And then it's really true. Nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. And even going back to Cad Bane, we were talking about, I'm not sure if you saw it on Twitter, but somebody was there was like a fan edit of Cad Bane to make him look more accurate. And I'm like, well, like, I guess job well done in a sense of like, yeah, he looks more like, I saw the edit and yeah, he looks more like his animated counterpart, but the problem is he doesn't look live action enough. He just looks more computer generated. I've already seen that side of Cad Bane. I want to see the live action side. So I think they did a great job.
Yeah, if there's people complaining about how he looks, there's just no pleasing you because he looks amazing. The worst. It
really just goes to show, like, that picture alone really just goes to show that it's the other saying is, well, the first one, like I said, nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. You're not allowed to hate Star Wars unless you're a Star Wars fan. And the other one is what was Star Wars fans just want more of the same.
I mean, obviously, in the case of Luke, he did look not good in Mando. But then the guy on the internet was like, "Hey, I'll fix this," and Lucasfilms was like, "Yeah, come on down, we'll hire you." So then they did that, and he looks good now. He definitely looks great. I think they're very restricted when it comes to his dialogue because they know that the more his mouth has to move, the stranger it looks. So they kind of like try to keep his dialogue very simple, like very repetitive and very simple words to say that don't cause a lot of mouth motion.
Yeah.
So that's why he kind of comes off like a robotic and kind of strange sounding. It's also just weird to hear a young Mark Hamill.
It is, isn't it?
It's been so long.
It's so strange. Like, I mean, like we said, episode 5 of The Mandalorian was like insane. It was called The Return of the Mandalorian. Everyone's joking Mandalorian season 2.5. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think since
I feel like it's just in general, like if this show were called The Book of Star Wars, I feel like there would be so many less complaints.
Yeah.
Just that it's called The Book of Boba Fett, that people are like complaining so much about what they got. But
yeah,
it's just all Star Wars, and it all led to 2 of the best Star Wars pieces of media that we've ever seen. So I don't really know why it's getting so much hate, but
because everyone's complaining about like, oh, it's supposed to be, Mando's story, but the Mandalorian's taking away from it. And it's like, well, I mean, they both do technically come. Well, obviously, Din Djarin follows the creed of the old way a lot more faithfully than Boba does, but I mean, they are both Mandalorians. I mean, they're both bounty hunters. It makes sense. I mean, I will say, like, I did prefer Boba in The Mandalorian season 2 when he came up with that cane. He was just
that's why everyone was so excited about this, because he was so great in that.
And then like with this series, they really made him see underpowered, especially with the with the season finale. And I mean, I don't know, like what did you think of Fennec Shand? Because I thought she did a really good job, but I feel like there isn't too much depth with these characters in the series. I mean, I guess you can call it bad storytelling, you can call it bad whatever. I was just tired of the flashbacks, and it's just like I said before, the politics weren't. I don't care about Tatooine that way. I just don't. I don't know what it is, but what did you think of Fennec Shand's performance?
I thought she did fine. I mean, she didn't get too much to work with in this series. I feel like kind of took a backseat, obviously, but she's just always a cool assassin to have on the screen. I do think there are legitimate complaints about how Boba Fett was written as a character.
Yeah.
Even Temuera Morrison kind of mentioned on social media that he complained that he was talking too much as a character.
Yeah.
That's Boba Fett's whole thing is the mystery and who he is and what he's about. But for most of this series, he's got his helmet off and he's just talking a lot, which is definitely a strange choice. And I agree with that because it just kind of takes away from him. And I mean, that's what makes Mandalorian so cool is that mask is always on, except for when he absolutely has to take it off.
And obviously, I mean, we all know what his face looks like, but it's so, you know, we all know what Pedro Pascal looks like, but yeah, it kind of is I think Star Wars has always done a really good job of creating characters, even if those who have a mask, like when it comes to the Mandalorian or Boba Fett or even Darth Vader, they're able to still express so much emotion. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, like for Mando, like you can tell his walk apart from somebody else's. He's got his own special like walk. Like you can just see when he's walking up, like, oh, it's Mando.
Man, when he walked up in that freezer, I was like, oh, here we go.
Oh yeah,
because they started playing his little, you know, his theme song towards the end of episode 4. I was like, oh, here we go, buddy. Let's go. He walked in that meat locker. I was like, oh man. He's like, I could bring you in warm or I could bring you in cold. I was like, oh yes.
And he can barely handle his own sword.
Yeah, I want to know if what's going to happen with the Darksaber with him. And of course, we kind of you know, we've been talking about all these different characters. We forgot to talk about the most important character, Grogu.
Yeah, I love how the mechanic was like, I do not like that name, just like the internet.
I'm not super attached to it. I mean, I feel like people are still gonna call him Baby Yoda, or the child. I feel like, but yeah, it's, you know, we see what Grogu has been up to this entire time with Luke, and beautiful shots of.
That whole training montage is just incredible.
Amazing. Yeah, I can't say there's a lot of like amazing shots in the Book of Boba Fett. I feel like there were a few towards the first like 3-4 episodes when they're doing, ironically, the flashbacks. But it was really nice to kind of just see what Grogu was up to, because we didn't know if we were going to see him again. You know, he, at the end of season 2, he leaves with Luke. But I like how the Mandalorian and the book, and not the Book of Boba Fett, but how Mando and Boba Fett's stories kind of intertwine together. Because I mean, why wouldn't they run into each other? You know, doing bounty hunter jobs and whatnot. But we finally see Grogu is given a choice of the armor that Mando dropped off for him early in episode 5, or a lightsaber. And
that's just any lightsaber.
Huh?
That's Yoda's lightsaber.
Yeah. Yoda's. I feel like it's the only one he could give him. Luke's like, crap. Like, I can't make a small enough lightsaber. He's like, you know what? I'll give him Yoda's. They're the same race. He's going to be the same size. I really want to know how far we're going to take a journey with Grogu, and how far we're going to go with Boba Fett as well, because it's been weird. The season finale is okay, but I mean, I really like how we took the detour with Mandalorian and kind of found out, you know, what's been going on with him, and you know, that really just opens up the gates for, you know, Mandalorian season 3. You know, we finally see Mando and Grogu back together again. And, you know, we finally see Grogu making his first adult choice chooses the chainmail or the mithril.
Such an easy choice.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, if you think about it, even if he chooses to be the Mandalorian, and then Mando dies. And he's like, all right, I'll just move on and become a Jedi because I'm going to live for thousands of years.
But is that chain really going to like?
He's going to get a blaster shot to the chest, and we're all going to freak out, and then he's going to live because of that chain.
He's already taken a few dives without it. He just goes flying like a little kicking a rock or something like that. It's crazy.
I love when he like force grabbed the part off of the droid and it tossed him backwards.
He was like, whoa.
Whenever he moves, it's just the cutest thing ever.
And he
waddles across the floor.
I mean, yeah, he's all like animatronic, and aside from a few shots, but they do a really good job with him. And I really, like I said before, I really enjoyed how we did the nice little detour with the Mandalorian. It's just a breath of fresh air because, like, honestly, I was not really feeling it after episode 4. I was like, okay, they show how Fennec meets up with Boba Fett. I almost said Jango Fett, excuse me, Boba Fett, and I mean, it was interesting, but I'm just like, man, like if they show this man in the septic tank one more time. I just wasn't having it, but I guess we can kind of just move on to the season finale now. But you'd said that it was fine. I thought it was okay, not like good. Not saying that it was bad. It's just that it kind of just ends, and like we mentioned before, it's very with the penultimate episode seemed to be the real crowd pleasers. And then, it's not like with with Game of Thrones, where, I mean, pretty much every penultimate season had an amazing payoff for the season finale, and give or take a few, minus season 8, but that's a topic for another day. But it was, I thought it was cool. Like, it was kind of like one giant battle thing. I didn't really feel like there was a lot of stakes. I mean, we knew Mando was gonna survive. I didn't know if Boba Fett was going to survive though or not. But
well, the real question: did Cad Bane survive? Oh, that's the real question.
Oh, he did for sure. You don't bring back Cad Bane for 2 episodes and then just not.
I mean, I sure hope so, because he did get. I do like that kind of tying it all together, where Boba uses the Raiders weapon that like stick that was handmade for him to defeat Cad Bane. Kind of just brings it all full circle nicely.
Yeah.
But I hope he lives.
I hope he does too. And it was, I wish we saw a little bit more of him, but I kind of do like how, I mean, it goes back to Boba's story, but it's just, I didn't really, I mean, like it was a cool, nice little bike chase scene. We saw some little spinning twirlies from I don't even know what the Power Rangers Street Gang name was, but the one black guy with the mask, he did a little spin. I was like,
I feel like it's safe to say we won't be seeing them anymore after
I kind of hope not, because I couldn't even tell you their names. They're just some kids off the street of Tatooine who, wanted to stick it to the man, and then Boba Fett showed them the way and it's like, oh, come work for me. But also, I was telling people, they're asking me how big a Boba Fett was, and I told them, like, well, honestly, you can kind of just start from episode 5 and go on from there, unless you really, really care about Boba Fett's story. I just don't.
I think 1 and 2 are worth it, and then 3 and 4 are just rough.
One, I would say 1 just. I don't know, man.
And 2 is great just because of that train scene.
Oh, the train scene was great for sure. It's just, I just couldn't get into it. Like, man, it took me a while. Like, because I was planning on watching it week to week, and then like 3 stockpiled together, and I was like, okay.
I do think that's a good thing to bring up, because I was watching Jeremy John's review, and he mentioned that he binge watched all of it, and that he really enjoyed it that way. So I think this is an example of one where I think this would have been a better binge than a weekly one.
I wonder if Disney shows, or since we've seen with Marvel and with Lucasfilm so far, I kind of want to go back and rewatch like just an entire series. Doesn't matter which one. Well, it kind of matters. No Falcon and Winter Soldier, please. But I kind of want to go back and rewatch because it is different watching it week to week than binging. I will say it is different. I wonder how different it's going to be, or if it's going to give me a different outlook. Because
for this series specifically, it's like you don't have to sit there and linger with Power Rangers for a whole week. Like you just watch the episode and move on to the next.
Yeah. Oh, thank God. Devin, if I offered you $5 right now without looking up anyone, you could name any of those kids. I don't know a single one of their names.
Johnny Silverhands.
That was not his name. That's
Keanu's name in Cyberpunk.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, the girl looks kind of familiar, but I don't know, bro. I felt so bad for them. They were just there. Like, oh yeah, let's.
They also didn't contribute anything.
Nothing at all. They were, they were stuck in a shootout like the entire time. They were either on a chase sequence or like a smaller like holdout shootout type thing. But I mean, the finale, it kind of like, I kind of like it wasn't the Destroyers. It was like the Death Scorpions or something of that nature. There was a few cool shots, but nothing like cinematically really grabbed me. Actually, I will say when Mando got like his new ship was kind of cool. And then of course his fight with the other Mandalorian, where he's technically no longer a Mandalorian, or he had to like redeem himself. Did you catch that at all?
In the finale?
No, not in the finale. I'm sorry. In episode 5, when we finally get the return.
Yeah, he had to fight for the sword.
Yeah, the fight for the sword. So I mean, doesn't seem like he has a big grip on it. I don't think that he was going to, especially with season 3 coming up. But I was interested to see if Grogu was going to stay with Luke or go back with the Mandalorian. Personally, I think they were definitely, I mean, obviously they were planning on having him come back, but I think that was a smart move because I don't know if we can do too much. I don't know how much like computer generated Luke we can really handle, because if he didn't, every single time we cut back to Grogu, he would be with Luke.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're done with it or maybe like one per episode type thing. I think.
I feel like we all should have known this was coming, because Grogu couldn't have been his first student, because we all know who that was. Ben.
Oh, Ben.
Thick Kylo Ren.
Or was it because he was building the school when Grogu was quote unquote being trained? So maybe Grogu was like a unofficial trainee.
Well, Ahsoka mentioned that he was going to be the first student.
Yeah, that's true. I do hope we see more Ahsoka for sure. We're going to, because she's getting her own show, which I'm very, very excited for. But yeah, I mean, overall, like the season finale, like it was cool. Like it was a fun time. The runtime was about like an hour.
And then we get a nice post-credit scene where Thundercat is fixing up Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth is becoming a nice fan favorite. Timothy Olyphant's always good.
Wait, was that? Oh, so there was one. Because I cut it off after Mando went into hyperdrive with.
It was basically
Grogu.
just Thundercat tending to the Cobb Vanth in a bactopod.
Oh, okay.
So he's still alive.
Okay. I got you. Yeah. So yeah, I was like scrubbing through. I'm like, is there one? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, I don't really see it, but it probably just kind of skipped over. I can't imagine it being super long, but yeah. But overall, like I thought overall the series is terrible. Nothing super like, oh my gosh, I wasn't really expecting anything shocking, but like,
yeah, it just feels like 5 and 6 are more so like the finale type of episodes, and
yeah,
that's what the show will be remembered for. And I feel like that's why I still kind of have a a bright outlook on it as a whole, just because those are just such good episodes.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Devin. Episode 5 and 6 are definitely it's what's going to be remembered of this show. I can't really save for the rest, unfortunately. Maybe one day I'll go back and re-binge, during the month of May. I know I'll be binging, watching a lot of Star Wars there. May 4th is coming up. It's really the entire month of May, but it is what it is there. But let's get into our we kind of just already went over like our final thoughts of this series. So I mean, hopefully, moving forward, I think Mandalorian season 3 is rumored to come out around December. Shocker there, because December is always a big Star Wars month, as I mentioned before. But let's just get into scores, I guess, and we'll kind of close on out here for the day. It's been another successful Wednesday here on the show. But I think what's coming up next on Disney Plus, I think it's Midnight. I believe so.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's towards the tail end of December, not December, March, isn't it?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. I thought so. Well, yeah. So Devin, give me your score for the Book of Boba Fett season 1. And would you like to see a season 2?
I think I'm going to go with a 75. I was definitely entertained. And 5 and 6 obviously just raised the floor of this series so much. But yeah, definitely uneven throughout, kind of weird switching back and forth between the characters, but obviously much appreciated because everybody loved Mando. But as far as the season 2, I feel like, it feels kind of unnecessary unless they really want to keep diving deeper into his background. I feel like they did a pretty decent job of showing where he came from, how he got out, and how he established himself as a mob boss type of character. But if they feel like they can do it, I trust Jon Favreau. But definitely just looking forward to Mando season 3.
This is the way. So for me, I would probably give this about, I would go around like, let's see, on serialized, which I've been logging on my TV, and you should too. Not just you, Devin, but also all the nice little the listeners out there. Serialized, it's like Letterboxd, and Letterboxd it's an app for logging for movies. There are some TV shows on there, but it's usually just limited series of shows. But serialized is the same as Letterboxd, just more TV focused. As of right now, I have it at about 2.5 stars. So I guess that's like what, a 55%. So yeah, I think about maybe like a 55% for me. I thought it was okay. The series overall, I thought it was okay, not the best. What really saved it for me was episode 5 and 6. When funnily enough, had nothing to do with Boba Fett. But I will say, out of episodes 1 through 4, and then episode 7, the season finale, and I would have to say the season finale was definitely the best, but I feel like Boba Fett was underpowered because he was wrecking in Mandalorian season 2. Like, he was just going off, and it seems like he's underpowered now. It seems like he's too old or too slow. And I was like, what happened? Sorry. Not my mind there. I'm like, what happened? I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
There's definitely just some character inconsistencies. Like,
just go back and watch that fight. Like, he was cracking skulls. Boba Fett was the man. And then he sat in his septic tank for 4 hours for 4 episodes. I was like, oh, I felt those episodes, man. But yeah, I would give it about a 55%, 2.5 out of 5 stars for me on Serialized. If you want to follow me on Serialized, my profile will be in the episode notes below of this episode as well. So you gave it about like 70. I'm sorry, 75. That's right. 75 from Devin and 55 from me, which is usually the other way around. But Man, oh man, I just couldn't get into the series. I don't. Maybe it's because I didn't really care too much about Boba Fett. He was really barely in the original series, all that. Not the original series, but the original trilogy. They did expand on him a little bit through the prequels, kind of, sorta, and then more so with the Clone Wars. But I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more of the Clone Wars. We definitely got to see some more Darth Maul at some point. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe Amelia Clark will come back as her character. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know. Well,
character that no one remembers the name of.
It starts with a Q, doesn't it? Do you know?
Nope.
I can't remember. I think it does. Kiara? No, I don't know. I want to stop guessing. But yeah, that pretty much concludes our episode here today for the Book of Boba Fett Season 1. Will we get a Season 2? We don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But there is more Star Wars content on the way for everyone. Of course, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TV series that's supposed to be launching in May. Very excited for that. And I think that's the only other Star Wars thing that we know of so far, besides The Mandalorian Season 3, which is supposed to come later on in the year, but we'll just have to wait and see. But Devin, what's coming up on the pod here, you might ask? What's coming up here on the show? We have a lot of things. It's been a very busy week for us here on the show. So starting off, if you haven't already, definitely check out our Jackass Forever review that is out on the podcast now. And as well, we did a bit of an emergency show, a little bit of an emergency podcast for you guys, talking about the Oscar nominations, giving our reactions and our soft predictions of who we think is going to take home the gold. And of course, if you're listening to this episode, if you're a big sci-fi fan, since we're talking about one of the biggest sci-fi, series of all time, franchises of all time, if you're a big sci-fi nerd, you should be checking out Raised by Wolves. That is on HBO Max. Season 2 just dropped this past week, I believe. The first 2 episodes are out. By the time you're listening to this, episode 3 should be dropping, I believe. The 3rd episode should be out. But me and a friend of the show, Leo Rydell, over at Geekly Goods YouTube channel, we're going to be getting together talking about the first 6 episodes, giving our overview of it. So we're going to kind of just gush over it. I don't think a lot of people are watching it, but like, if you're a really big sci-fi person, it is so good, from the mind of Ridley Scott. So definitely check out Season 1 if you haven't already, and get geared up and ready for Season 2. And last but not least, later on next week, mid-February, I believe, we're going to be revisiting or coming back, continuing our Hunger Games franchise revisited with the Hunger Games Catching Fire. We have some amazing guests coming on to the show with us. We have Amy Smith over from In Session Film and Next Best Picture, and we have Sharia Chawa, YouTuber in of itself. It's in the name. He's a great guy. So we're definitely going to be talking some Hunger Games Catching Fire, getting ready for the 10-year anniversary that's going to be hitting in March. So that's going to be our next monthly series review for that. And of course, we have Uncharted coming up and a few others, the Batman and whatnot. So definitely keep a look out for all that stuff on our Twitter page. That's where that's where you can pretty much stay in the know for our podcast. And of course, you can listen to our podcast on platforms around the internet: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora. We're on Audible, Devin. We are on Audible and Facebook, which is crazy to think about. Next up, maybe YouTube. I don't know. But that pretty much concludes our episode here for today. And before we leave, one more thing. Always make sure to share an episode or share this episode with a friend, your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it is. Make sure to share this episode or one of our other previous episodes, something that kind of catches your eye and it's like, hey, you know what? I watched that show. I watched that TV show. Hey, I want to check out the Oscar nominations. What should I be watching to prepare myself for awards season? So that pretty much covers everything I wanted to get out to you guys today. So we're going to close on out here. And we hope you guys have a great rest to your week. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Twitter to stay in the know. That was Devin. My name is Christian, and we'll see you guys in the next one.